Hey guys, it's Colin Gallagher here with episode 65 of the Colin Gallagher podcast. And you guys, I am so excited to bring you this podcast. This is someone that I got introduced to through David Meltzer. If you guys have listened to his episode, which was phenomenal, one of the rawest, deepest tears on both of us and people in the room podcast. And so, he always has an amazing network. So I'm super, super, super excited and honored to be bringing you this episode, to be offering you this experience and just this beautiful energy this guest is going to bring. And so before I get into that, I first want to read you our sponsor today. So it's brought to you by Omnio. Omnio is a travel booking platform that makes planning a journey in Europe and North America effortless. Just enter your travel details and Omnio will magically give you all the train, bus, flight, and ferry options for your journey. It has never been simpler to book your first real vacation for 2021. Best of all, using Omnio saves you time and money. That's a win-win in our books. Omnio wants to help you leave your house this summer by offering 5% off your next booking. Just head to omnio.com and use the code OMIO5 at checkout. Valid until July 31st for new users on all modes of transport. It's just the pick-me-up 2021 needs. Omnio. Plan, book, and love the journey. Terms and conditions apply. So I hope you guys enjoyed that one, and make sure when you guys are listening, share this with your friends, leave a review, reach out to me with any questions. But I'm so excited. So for our guest today that we are co-creating a conversation with, it is Bill OHerron. LCSW is a corporate executive practicing therapist, weekends and evenings, and writer who seeks to use his 33 years of financial sales management experience, 24 years of marriage, 15 years of counseling clients, and 8,500 hours of sitting quietly to help his clients better understand themselves and deepen their relationships. Bill teaches that all our relationships with others, especially our marriage, started in 4th grade when our limbic-emotional body learned, absorbed, and inherited our parents' lives and experiences. We are all therefore married to our own old unconscious emotions, more so than to our spouse. Wow, this is incredible. Before I even finish the rest, because my 3rd book in Uncompromised Life, you guys, if you know this, we have a whole chapter about this. So his research shows that relationships fail for one single reason: a lack of understanding of one's own emotions and reaction patterns created in childhood. His work with archetypes demonstrates also that relationships are not a single experience or dyad between two people, but are 8 unique relationships all occurring at the same time. And for those of you who know, 8 is the number of the divine feminine, which again is coming up. And in technology that Steve Jobs has done, the sequencing and coding is number 8 of codes and sequences that can happen when doing coding. So this is incredible. So another key of all of this, these key concepts he uses to accelerate clients' works are stand in the fire, second law of thermodynamics at home, and relatus. You might have to correct me on that, Bill.
Sure.
These 3 concepts provide direct access to understanding self. He celebrates in and humorously expounds on the belief that working on self, which will automatically improve the dynamics of all relationships, is the most important thing in life. And that what we do right now in our relationship echoes through posterity, changing who our grandchildren's children become. Bill graduated from Millbury College VT with a BA in English and earned a Master's of Science degree from Columbia University School of Social Work, New York in 2003. Welcome, Bill. Oh my goddess, that was a mouthful, but I love it. I feel like that's how introducing me sounds like. So we have 33, which is a divine number of the Trinity. So this is incredible. We have 8, which is in your
Archetypes.
Yes, 8 archetypes here. And we also have talking about generational lineage, which is incredible. You have 24 years of marriage. My parents have 30 years of marriage. Like, this is like, there's so many things where I'm like, Bill, what? Just open me up. Where do we start? Who are you? How did you get here? What planet are you really from?
Jeez. Just when I listen to you read that description, I'm thinking, man, I got to shorten that. But, you and I were chatting just before this, and I was actually watching one of your presentations, and I had one of those moments 25 years ago. I was in the business world. I was 31. I'm from New Jersey. My upbringing was regular middle class, raised Catholic. Always felt there was something else. Couldn't figure it out. I'm 31. I'm working at an investment bank, living in London, living the life of Riley. And somebody said meditate, and I sat. One night I sat, and I've never been the same since. I will probably jump into that, but fast forward from there. got married, have 3 kids. I've been back in the full time in the business world for 14 years, where I took a pretty long hiatus. I got my master's in social work. I ran a juvenile justice program. I taught yoga there. I took 100 kids skiing 2 years in a row because I felt like I was making this currency for myself in my 30s. In my 20s and 30s, I was, had currency in my bank, but I was like, I'm not doing anything for the community. Like, what am I doing with my life? And I'll tear up just thinking about it. And I'm like, I got to do something else. So at 35, I got a master's in social work. But I realized I was living in Wilton, Connecticut, the Gold Coast. You got to have money. So after getting my degree, doing the practicum of 3,000 hours, I got my licensure. So I became a licensed therapist, which meant I could take insurance dollars, get paid. And back in 2007, I went back into the business world. Funny enough, I get my license and I go back full-time onto Wall Street. So I've been back full-time on Wall Street since 2007, having the evening practice in counseling and weekends. And I've got probably 4 to 7 clients running at any different time, all on Zoom really over the phone for the last 4 years. Cause you kind of find people everywhere, but the last 2 years, especially since COVID. So I'm just a seeker like you, I believe that there's more to be done. And I like helping other people. And I've got 3 kids. So, I got I got 2 kids still in college. So, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. But that's kind of that's the shortened version, short and long version of my background, how I got here.
I love this. And what I want to dive into first is there are a lot of people listening to this. So they will hear Wall Street, what they just heard and what you said is that Wall Street business, have 3 kids, and you're doing this, like helping people on the side. You've done all these things. What was this meditation moment like? Because some people here are wanting to open to meditation. They're wanting to do it, but they're like, I can't sit still. I can't do this. I hear what you're saying. Why would I stop that when I could go do work? I can go work out or I can go whatever. So what happened in you to be like, Bill, I've got to do this?
So for anybody listening, Colleen, and this, sitting quietly is the only way home. It's the only way in. It's the only way to truly know your life. I wish there was another way. Trust me, I've been to 46 countries. I've tried every single modality. I'm still trying them as we speak. There is only one singular modality. Human beings have been doing it for over 200,000 years, 300,000 years. They've been sitting around fires. They've been relaxing themselves, closing their eyes. That's what emotional intelligence is. EQ, this big word that everybody's using in the corporate world. EQ is the combination of your left brain, rational, and your right brain merging. It can only happen one way. Sitting quietly with the spine straight, the tree of life, the Kabbalah. It's the tree. The spine starts at the tip, goes to the top. Kundalini. Go to your doctor's office. When you see the caduceus on the wall, right? You know what the caduceus is the staff with the 2 snakes. Do you know what that is?
Tell me.
It's the Kundalini energy being woken up. The 2 snakes, left, right, yin yang being woken up. The Greeks were teaching this 3,000 years ago. They knew when a man sits, a human being sits, it wakes up the Kundalini at the tip of the spine. And that's the awakening. That's when you begin your life. Truly, you begin your real life. Meditation is the only way. I wish there was another way. So what was the moment? I was living in London, working at Salomon Brothers. My outer life was awesome. Girlfriends, traveling the world, blah, blah, blah. And I was miserable. My heart was shrinking. My heart. I don't know why. I couldn't put words to it. And a friend of mine, a beautiful woman, said, Bill, you're insecure. You should do therapy. I'm like, fuck you. I'm from New Jersey. I'll figure this out. Excuse me. I don't mean to swear on your podcast.
No, you're good. We swear.
And then I had another friend, female, masculinizing the feminine. I wouldn't know what those 2 words meant 25 years ago. She's like, you should sit. I'm like, I'm not going to sit. Why would I sit? What a waste of time. Are you kidding me? I work at Salomon Brothers. I'm like the guy. So one night I was so miserable. I sat, just closed my eyes, just like this, as I'm doing right now. And my neck started to choke and I could feel something. And the tears started flowing out my eyeballs with 0 content. There was no emotion, no feelings, no sentiment, no past memories. It was just the body releasing. What the hell was it releasing? I have no idea. And I'm like, oh my God, there's this little voice going, oh my God, hang in there. Oh my God, holy shit. And my neck's choking, tears flowing. I pass out. This is March 17th, 1996, 14G, Draycott Place, Sloane Square, Chelsea. I remember it like it was 8 weeks, like it was 8 minutes ago. I pass out. I come to, I don't know how long it was, 20 minutes, an hour. I come to, I'm in the dark on the floor, looking out the window. I'm like, I got a little nervous. I'm like, is there somebody in the room? I'm like, what the fuck? Is there somebody in the room here? And I hear, welcome back. I hear, welcome back. And I'm like, okay, they're taking me away in a straitjacket. Every time I tell a story, I get goosebumps, right? And then I'm like, okay, again, my New Jersey voice is going, hang in there, buddy, hang in there, buddy. You're not totally crazy, just a little bit crazy. I swear to God, I'm like, what's happening? And then, Colleen, I hear, hey, I start to hear this chanting. I'm like, and I felt like I was sitting in a circle of Native American women drumming, and not like some women. It was like 20 women, stout, strong, eternal, feminine. And I hear this drumming. And I've heard that meditation every single day for 25 and a half years. Now, is that going to happen to your audience the first time they sit? No. Could it? Yes. Will it make them go crazy? No, it's going to wake them up to their truest self. It's a bumpy old road, I'll tell you that. And I just had a lunch last week, and this conversation comes up. It's come up 10 times the last 20 years, 10, 15 people. They say to me, Bill, I got this. Friends of mine, like, listen, do not call me back again ever until you sit and meditate for at least half an hour. I love you. I'll do anything. I'm talking about like soulmate friends. I'm like, brother, I love you. Rebecca, I love you. Scott, I love you. I'll do anything for you. Don't call me unless you sit. And sure enough, lives broke open. I'm like, one of these days you're going to wake up, you're going to sit, and you're going to be crying on the floor, and you're like, oh my God, you're going to break open. And when that happens, male or female, the whole universe, you hear, because that means a soul's waking up. Boop, and the universe is always listening. And the universe doesn't like the vacuum. And it's like, and you're going to start, one person meditating will change generations back and forth, right? The Kabbalah says when a human being sits, wakes up the Kundalini, you heal 7 generations forward and 7 generations back. There's your 14. So anyway, don't get me started. My wife's like, don't get Bill started. He's incapable of small talk. And he'll chew up your ear on pushing people to meditate. They're like, Bill, all you say is meditate. I'm like, brother and sisters, I'm sorry. It's the hardest road in because it's the only road in. Sorry.
No, I love, so for what you said, what I love, 2 things. One, for my 3rd book, An Uncompromised Life, I think it's the 4th principle. So chapter 5, it's generational lineage. And I specifically talk about this. And when I let go of my child, I chose to do that in 6 days of knowing. It was like talking about that, the unconsciousness that I was letting go, and the toxic behaviors from the woman and men in my lineage and from the child's father. And so I love that you bring this up, because that is like literally word for word. I write 7 generations above and 7 generations below. So it's like literally quoted in my book. So it's the same thing. And then the other thing that I was going to say is when you were speaking about the meditation, these voices you heard. So I have 2 podcast episodes. I think it's episode 27 or 24. You guys can look at episode 44, and they're meditation. They're specific sound healing meditation. So when you're listening to it, if you guys want to go and do like hear them so you can understand what Bill just mentioned, I highly recommend it because it's really going to help you. Or sorry, maybe it's 55. Sorry, yes, 55. There we go. 55 and 27 or 24. But anyway, you guys listen to that and it will really help you, because it's speaking in tongues like, and for what Bill did, it could be a deeper one. It could be a deeper one. So there's different ones you do, but I want you guys to know that those voices, those sounds that you hear, they're not made up in your mind. They're not fake. They're not like, oh my God, I'm going crazy. Like, this is just actually our true frequency. And you think about being in the womb, which whether you're a man or a woman, you've been in the womb of a child or in the womb of a woman, it doesn't matter. This is the sound, like when you hear it moving, like shoo, shoo, shoo. So these languages or these frequencies are literally bringing you back into the womb of the universe for you to remember the truth of who you are. So I love that you brought this up, because I think a lot of people hear the sound. And Alan Watts says this, which I really love with my academia work, is you've got to be able to be in the void. And in the void, that's when you hear the sound. Are you listening? And he says this. And so I love that you brought this up. And I think it's so important, because even let's say if you're not meditating, listening can often feel like, if you're in the space of what you talked about, Bill, is like you're running so high, you have all these things, like you always feel like, oh, and then you like burn out and you're exhausted. Like that could be the voice talking to you, of your body being exhausted, of your body not being well. That is the voice speaking to you.
Great point.
And from that, you're being forced into a point of stillness. So one thing I talk about a lot, and you guys have seen it, not to get political, but it is what it is. My ears ringing saying this, but anyway, with COVID-19, right? COVID-19, we've talked about this before on the podcast, but it's with the lungs, right? The lungs is near the heart. So we're being asked to open our heart. So if you've received COVID or there's things, right? You're literally being asked to be in stillness, to feel your heart,
Bingo.
To listen to it. And so I love that you brought this up because there's just so many ways to go into it. And I think I'd really love to transition here because of the heart, your work with love. Because I know that's something that I believe in, the power of love. It's really what all of my messages are around. And I'd really love for you to talk about this, because I think a lot of people in this space, they've either had commitments with, hey, I've been in a relationship, hasn't been the greatest, hasn't whatever, or they're kind of in an open dynamic, which they're not really looking for something serious, but they enjoy this kind of like different people, but they still really desire the one. Is this one going to come? Am I always going to be with these multiple different people? Because that's how I need to feed all of the identities of me, as I need these different, people. So I want to kind of tap into what love is, the truth of love. And something that I saw, which I actually really resonated with, is that marriage is the commitment to the inner work. Like marriage is the commitment to the work. And I saw that and I was like, wow, that is so profoundly deep and so profoundly emotional and so profoundly true. And so I want to go into that realm with you. So let's open it wherever you want. And like kind of conversate there.
Perfect. Before, and I love it. Oh my God, this is my favorite topic. I want to just touch real quickly on brainwaves, right? So just the most, and you nailed it. The most rudimentary way to look at it is when you slow yourself down, relax, you just have to close your eyes. Forget about all the airy-fairy new age meditation stuff. When you close your eyes, in about 90 seconds, your pineal gland starts secreting serotonin and melatonin. So automatically, when one closes their eyes, keeps their back straight, it puts this body in a rest mode. What it does is get your brain out of beta. So your brain waves right now, we're talking, are about 14 to 18 cycles a second. When you close your eyes, do it for 2 minutes, your brain starts to slow down. You get to alpha. Alpha is more like 8 to 10 cycles a second. Alpha, the tree right now, if you did a EKG on the tree's at alpha. Guess what? The ionosphere of the planet, the ionosphere is the atmospheric ring around the globe, around Mother Earth. The ionosphere is moving, the cells in that, electrons are moving at 7 to 10 cycles. They're at alpha. In other words, the universe and the planet is at alpha. Humans right now are at beta when we're high rationalizing. When you relax, you go to alpha. So you're automatically tuned into the frequency of Mother Nature, of the sounds, like you said, in the womb. So that, again, just real basic stuff in terms of getting to alpha. Meditation. Okay, love and marriage. My first take on love is it is truly impossible to the way to true love is you have to love yourself. You have to love your fourth grader. It's the only way you can love somebody, you can long for them, you can have them, and it's beautiful. Maybe you don't have to go, but the only way to truly begin a life of real, deep connectivity and the fullest completion of one's life and love and relationships is the way home, as Harvard said in the Grant study. The most important thing in a human being's life are relationships, period. That's Harvard. Is all my work starts with my fourth grader. All my work with you would be with your fourth grader. We would just simply relax. I do it in every single session. Every phone session, haven't met the person, within 6 minutes, we're going back to fourth grade and we're drawing, the 37-year-olds dialoguing. The fourth grader, your fourth grade self, all your listeners, fourth grade selves know what the world is, knows what he or she wants, might be sad, might be confused, but the love enzymes, the heart, they're pure limbic. When we're at that age, we're pure limbic. From 0 to 10, the human body and human psyche, the psycho-emotional, the biomagnetic is all limbic. There's no rational. So it's almost like we're going pre-game, we're going pre-adult. And when you tap into that fourth grade soul energy, biomagnetic of the fourth grader knows all. And so me, the 56-year-old, having a dialogue, which I probably will tonight with my fourth grader or my eighth grader, that's when I start to realize, do I like myself? Do I understand? Like, ask your fourth grader what she thinks of the 27-year-old. Oh, she's super cool. And so begin the relationship there. If you begin a relationship with self, that's ultimately what we're saying. And the next question, the next layer of the question is, why is marriage? What is marriage and love? How do they equate? Use every relationship. What I say is use the friction of relationship. Doesn't matter whether it's with your neighbor, your spouse, use that friction to wake up more of Colleen. That's the whole game. Second law of thermodynamics. Colleen, you could go sit on a mountain for 10 years and meditate and be truly enlightened. But the Buddha says all that enlightenment doesn't matter unless you bring it to the marketplace. Leave the cushion, bring it to the marketplace. Get in a relationship with your boss. He's going to kick up your insecurity, your sadness, your longing, your joy. Everything else kicks up more of me. My wife for 24 years has been kicking my ass up and down the court. She'll kick my ass tonight. She's waking up more of Bill. I can either fight her or I can go, damn, she's making me feel less than again. I take that less thanness to my cushion, to my cave, as Carl Jung says. And I go, oh, that's my fifth grader feeling less than when dad, blah, blah, blah. And so understanding and just knowing that that's in me, it relaxes me to know, am I okay with that? God forbid I actually accept and forgive myself for being an asshole or all these other things. And that forgiveness of self and the relaxing in to liking oneself, first step, like oneself. Think of that. Wow, I really, really, really like myself. I'm pretty much there-ish at 56, 25 years into this game. I'm starting to learn how to love myself, but just liking myself gives me a real ability to love somebody. How can you, Colleen, how can I truly know my wife's sadness, joy, longing, her vibration, if I don't know my own? I'm just guessing. I'm just spitting in the wind. That's why relationships struggle, because you think you know somebody, but you haven't known yourself. You miss all the cues, and suddenly you're married. You're like, all right, now I see the cues. Oh my God. Anyway, stop me, interrupt me.
No, I want to go, this is really important because I think this is one of the biggest things I hear when my clients first start to work with me, or just, people in general, I shouldn't even just my clients. I mean, this is a huge humanity thing right now. People will go, these people do this. And this is, you could even say with vaccine, anti-vax, Trump, Biden. You can say this with war that's going on in Palestine that just broke out. I mean, there's so many examples of this. It's not even funny. If you're vegan, if you're not vegan, like so many things of this, that these people do this, this happens, they do this, da, 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 da. And one thing that I really, really believe, right, is what you choose to see in this world, right, is a reflection of what's happening internally. So this frequency of what Bill just brought up, right, what you're sharing inside of you, this frequency internally creates a auric field that radiates outside of you. And that radiation, just like cancer, if it's inward or outward, right, this radiation is attracting things to you. Not that I'm by any means saying you attract trauma or abuse or anything like this. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm just saying this radiation, right, is attracting what you choose to perceive. So if you're in this place of people are always like this, women are always like this, men are like this, it means that there's something inside of you that fundamentally does not love that part of you, or love that you are worthy to not have that, or love to have, like, love yourself to be worthy of what you truly desire. And you then are placing external blame on all these people that are literally just a frequency that's trying to communicate to you through other people what's not healed in you. And this is very, very complicated because of course it's easier to say the men always cheat or women are just using me for this. But what if I had to love myself and be like, actually, wow, I'm incredible because I know how to make a lot of money really quickly. What if I actually had to look at myself deeply and be like, wow, what if it's that I actually was really good at speaking to women or men and I'm only attracting cheaters or something like this because I'm not using my gift of allowing people to be seen. I'm not allowing myself to be seen. So then from that lack of vulnerability, this is causing a disconnection. What if I became good at loving myself and being vulnerable with myself? And how would that actually be? Like, what kind of conversation would I want to have? And is that scary? Is that scary to say my darkness of, well, I can get jealous, or I'm not the best with money management. I'm great at sales, but not that good at saving. I'm good at investments. Like, how scary is that? Because our deepest thing is to say this, and then someone's gonna be like, holy shit, that was way too much. Let me walk away. Like, that's our deepest thing. And so when you have this frequency of what you just talked about in love, it's so important because all roads lead back to ourselves. All roads come back into how deeply committed are you to whatever you're blaming this external world, taking responsibility. So that's what you're choosing to see and perceive, because there's something that's asking to be healed. And that will always bring you to a deeper greatest, like, of love. That will always bring you to a deeper frequency, which will allow you then to attract what you actually desire to attract.
I mean, bloody hell, that's freaking beautiful. It really is. And it's amazing as you were talking, I was thinking, recommending to your audience, gauge how much time you spend in a given day. Take a 10-hour slice of your day, 5-hour slice, whatever it is. Take a 1-hour slice. How much time are you spending on the candy cane tasting outside world, whether it's YouTube or whatever, all the stuff outside you, right? Take a 3-hour slice and measure. Oh, I just spent 40 minutes on YouTube, whatever it is, it's all good. And then how much time did I actually spend feeling into my heart? Understanding, oh, wow, I feel good. I feel less than, I feel anxious. So number one, a great measure to do that. Number two, I'm going to give you a specific example of what we don't know about ourselves. And the only way you can really figure it out is using the friction of the outside world and taking that friction and bringing it to your cave, AKA meditation and therapy, and actually understanding oneself and how it changes your entire perspective of life. So I get married. Actually, I was just about getting married, and I realized I was carrying around this frustration and anger towards women. Why? I couldn't put words to it. And thank God I had started meditating before I got my girlfriend pregnant, my wife of 24 years, born on the same day as me. But I didn't understand it. And so she was commenting quite often of how quickly I would respond, how quickly I'd overreact. The punchline is, I went into my meditation and I realized my 4th grade self watched my mom browbeat my dad my entire life. So I entered the adult world unconsciously frustrated with women, not because of me, because what I witnessed in my dad. The point is, every single one of us has these deep-seated core response patterns, response mechanisms. It's not good or bad. Whether you hate your grandmother or not, doesn't fucking matter. Whether you hate people that are green, blue, purple, doesn't matter today. The fact that you dislike something or you're not tuned in, all you have to do is realize, oh, that's a key issue. I get frustrated when. Great, take that frustration and sit with it. We have to be with our emotions. Our emotions, the intelligence of the universe doesn't work through thoughts. It works through feelings. There wasn't an act in human history ever, Robert Monroe, there's never been an act ever in human history that wasn't guided by an emotion. An emotion creates an action. Action creates a reaction. And so, as the Hindus say, you're only getting half truth in your lives if you're not tuning into your feelings. Exactly. Because the rational brain is just an echo pad. It's just catching echoes. Sorry. No, that's it. Like,
I was gonna say one thing I love, because I'm pretty sure I was just trying to look it up when we were doing that, but I didn't want to. But we both wear blue shirts, ironically, and this is the throat chakra, right?
Totally. Yep.
So, and what's funny is because when you guys think, and I had thyroid cancer, so it's always like incredible. But anyway, Bill and I did not plan this, everyone. It's funny because
exactly.
We say with the podcast, tune in to receive the frequency. And that's like our tagline for it. And so what I love that you're sharing, or what I think is so important, is these things that you have inside of you, whether it's meditation or whether you're hearing these voices or whether you're not feeling well, like these things, right? You're meant to speak about them. And I think so often when we start this journey of like what you shared, Bill, and I have many of my own stories with this as well, but it can feel shameful and embarrassing and frustrating to be like, I'm angry, I don't like women, or I don't like men, I'm so fed up with this shit, like money isn't working, whatever that it is. But the reality is, and someone said this and I really, really, really believe it, like just because you want more money in life, that's not enough for it. Like, you have to have a freaking feeling behind the motherfucking reason of, this is why money is going to show up in my goddamn account, and this is why I'm demanding it. Like, it has to have that frequency of, this is the core of what I know to be true. This is where it's going to go. This is how it's supporting my mission. And when you come like that, money will never not show up. It just won't, because when you show up, it's a feminine frequency. When you think about it, it's always protected in wallets, in banks. So when you think of it, what is feminine love? The feminine loves attention. The feminine loves to support. The feminine, when it feels like it's desired, like think about if you're listening to this guys and a girlfriend, right? If you give her no attention, do you think that girlfriend's really going to do anything? When you give her attention and she feels loved and she feels cared for, women do incredible things. Or the feminine things, you're like, how did she even remember that? How did she even think that? I have no idea how that even happened, because it's so unsystematic to the masculine. But when the feminine feels that, right? She pulls into that magic, right? That magnetism, that thing that men deeply or masculine really, really desires. So what I love that you're sharing, and I think it's so important, is that it's science behind this. And there is a bit of, years, I mean, I shouldn't say years, I mean, decades, centuries of spiritual teachings. And this has been proven time and time and time. There's too much evidence for it not to be true through people's lives, through businesses, through like sustainable businesses, not just like a $1 million, $10 million, like, I mean, sustainable business that have lasted lifetimes. And lifetimes and like impacted all these people. So I just love that you bring that up. And I do believe that for those of you listening, I want to ask you this. I want to feel through it. So if they're really looking for, let's say, marriage, and maybe it's not marriage. I feel like my generation, I don't know if we necessarily believe in marriage, but it's definitely the numbers are showing that, but we definitely believe in longer term committed relationships. Like that's something we deeply want. So what would you say when looking at all of this? Like, what is the starting point to maybe shift from a more uncommitted focus on my career into like, wow, I could really get the one or attract the one? I kind of gave it away there, I guess. So, but what when that mindset of how do I really get the thing? How do I really get
perfect? I talk about this all the time. I would say the average age of my current or the last year and a half folks I speak to, counseling clients, are between 25 and 42, 43, perfect age. The first thing I always say is you're looking for a relationship, right? Absolutely 100%. You need one. Relationships are key. Again, start with self. Do a little bit of checking in with self. Number two, like checking in with self is really the only place to start. Like go back to that fourth grade. I can show you some exercise. I can send you some links. The second thing is really important. Start doing something that you really like to do. Gardening, architecture, something. What did the fourth grader self? What did the eighth grade self? What did the 11th grade self always want? Oh, I always wanted to be an astronaut. All right, well, go take a science class at your local community college, because it's all about frequency, right? If I'm in my house at 37 with no relationship and longing for a relationship, all the universe is going to hear is longing, kind of a vacuous desire, as opposed to I step out into the world and I go take dance classes, or I go to a science class. I remember when I was married, but I was into gardening. I took a class at Nora Community College about taking care of my house. Now, if I had been single, oh my God, it would have been great. The point is, you got to be doing what you love to do. Mm-hmm. And you're going to find somebody who's doing what they love to do. And then suddenly you've already kind of been through 3 or 4 due diligence checklists, because that person likes gardening, you like gardening, you start with a common base. I know that sounds like really pedantic and really like, oh, that sounds really, like, start doing something that you love. Start embracing all the oughts and should haves of your life, whether you're 25 or 75. If you always wanted to do something, fucking do it today. Yeah. Just do it, right? Sign up for that class. You can not take it, but the energy of signing up, it's like the energy of going to the doctor, the energy of like when you sign up to do with a counselor, you're already in therapy. Whether the session's 3 weeks away or not, you're already in. Things are happening. The universe is listening. Oh, she's always fucking listening. Right? And I know that sounds new agey, but we are just light and sound. Not Einstein says, Colleen, what are you made up of? I will tell you, 99% space. Yep. You are 99% space. So why are you spending all your time spend more time on your space, i.e. your non-physical self, your emotional self, your 4th grade self, your 10th grade self. What did your 10th grader love to do? Oh, she loved to do whatever. She liked to play hopscotch and play stickball. Then go play stickball down in your community college. You'll pick something, like get in motion, right? You nail it. The feminine is the receptive, taking in. It's the intuitive. It's the knowingness. It's the chaos. It's the yin, the dark side of the mountain. It's all the feminine energy. It's not girl energy. It's feminine energy. It's the other side of masculine. Masculine is we need to know the feminine, feel the feminine, but we need to then every human being then needs to take this feminine knowingness and impose it onto the world. Action. That's the masculine, right? So we can talk, we can meditate. If I was just meditating, I wouldn't be able to function in the world. I've got to take the meditation, feminine, and put it out into the world, masculine. Mm-hmm. We're doing that dance every fucking day. So that's why females want to be around men mostly, and men want the feminine relationship. We want the marriage. We want the relationship. So start doing your opposite. If you're a dude, start meditating your ass off. If you're a woman who's already meditating, already kind of gets it, go out into the world like you do. Impose your powerful feminine energy. Masculinize your feminine by doing a class, doing something, and you're going to notice a shift.
Yeah, I like these. And for those of you who don't know, I have a workshop. It's called How to Make the Awakened Woman Crave You. And it's on my website. It's like a 2-hour workshop that's absolutely phenomenal. I go into masculine, feminine, how to really, as a masculine, stop the chase and get into the attraction. Because
Bingo.
where we're heading into the world, like I think the biggest thing I hear in men's like, oh, I just deal with rejection. Like when you do it right, a true healthy feminine like myself, I am repulsed by men that really kind of reach out to me. And it's like a penetrative thing. Like I am in total alignment when I can fall into the masculine, when it's the mountain. And so it's like, I talk about this deeper and how practically you can do this, but it's so important. And I love what you shared. And David Meltzer talked about this on our podcast. This is the question I asked him because he has definitely reached a space of enlightenment. And I said, you are so systemized. I mean, if anyone who knows David Meltzer, I don't know, I think he gets award of the globe. This man is this time to this time, he's doing this time to this. I mean, there is nothing that is not systemized in that man's life. And so I said, it's interesting because you're so intuitive. So I'm curious, like what you feel about this between the masculine and feminine. And he said something along the lines of like, the process system has given me more freedom to be intuitive and creative. And I brought up my ways and how I do things. And he's like, however, I know what you're doing. And I also know that what you do gets you more are the results with more accuracy and more consistency than sometimes what I do. But how to get to where you are takes a lot more work than just doing the system or this. And he was like, I do that in the way, which is beautiful. But I thought it was a really beautiful guide to listen to that and hear the masculine perspective of how to really merge them both.
I want to say something.
Go ahead. Yeah. No, go.
Just about trust and vulnerability. Two really, there's talk about seeds in those two words. So vulnerability is the key to all life. Mm-hmm. Vulnerability, the only way you build a relationship with somebody is to become vulnerable, right? I've got my wife and I talk about all the time. We've got friends around that we chat, and I'm always like the tester of vulnerability. I'll just say, my life's kind of my own punchline. I kind of like it. Like, I meditated, I had money. My wife married me. I was a banker. Now I'm a social worker. I'm all fucked up. Mm-hmm. And so I add a little bit of vulnerability. I share something to myself and I see if that person matches it. If they match, oh yeah. And so vulnerability is the only way to build a relationship. You have to break it down to start building, right? So if a marriage isn't working, it's because you're not becoming vulnerable enough. And what happens is one side's getting vulnerable, the other isn't. Now the other one's afraid to get vulnerable because the one that is, they feel like they're going to cut them down. So anyway, vulnerability is the key. But number two, trust. The feminine is the keeper of trust. The feminine knows when her spouse or boyfriend isn't all in. Like I talk to my buddies all the time. They're married 20 years. They're like, oh, my wife's this. I'm like, dude, no. Here's what's happened. You come home, you're not present. You're not emotionally available. So it's as if you're not there, but you're like, oh, I'm physically there. I'm putting in my stamp of time. No, you're not there. You give her 25 minutes of emotional time, talk to her, feel into her, listen, be there, be yin. Open up. How was your day? Right? That 25 minutes buys you 3 hours of watching NFL on Sundays. Mm-hmm. But you think just being in the room matters. It doesn't matter because the feminine trusts and knows, hey, she's not trusting you. You're not leaning into their world. You're not paying attention. So for guys out there, they're like, well, trust. I'm not talking about having sex with another woman. I'm talking about emotional heart trust. Mm-hmm. Like if you're in doing something with somebody else, and you want to build something with that person, care about yourself enough to care about them even more. Lean into really listening with your heart and your belly, not your head, and talk about when you were a kid. Like be vulnerable, take the risk of being vulnerable. And if that person cuts you down or dismisses or acts dismissively because you act vulnerable, you're getting all the cues you need.
Yeah.
You're not in. So really, the trust, the feminine trust, that enzyme of trust is the most powerful thing, especially for the masculine, the little boy inside all the men. There's a little boy inside every man, just like there's a little girl inside every girl. But this topic right now is the little boy. We're sensitive. We want mommy to love us. We just want to be nestled. And then we fight back when the feminine wants to challenge us. Well, the feminine challenge is to get your ass to wake up. David Deddy wrote the greatest book on the planet, The Way of the Superior Man. He says the feminine energy is designed to show you your asshole and to break your ass down, to wake your ass up. That's what is involved with the masculine side. And the feminine is trusting and knowing. And I've been, talk to my wife right now, get her in here. I've been pressing her to meditate more and get into more of that feeling side. But women have this most powerful intuition that blows me away. Like the shit that she knows. I'm like, she just knows. I just go to her for all the immediate, what I need to know, yes or no. And she's never been wrong. I mean, she's 95% accurate. Like it's just, you guys are a force to be reckoned with. When I say you guys, feminine, powerful women.
No,
especially born in November.
Yes, I was Scorpio season. But I was gonna say, I love that you brought this up, and I think a lot of men that are probably listening, I've had this happen and I think as women, we have to be mindful when we're saying this and we're high in the feminine or masculine, is that we have to be mindful that when we say things that men are in a really sensitive transition, just as women are. So how we communicate what we're communicating is very important. So I like what you said of like, even if you go as a man and you're wanting to be present, it's the same as a child. Think about, like, I just sort of, it's like, would you ever want to be in, would you expect your child that's like 5 years old, let's say, that really wants to hang out with you and you're kind of like, oh yeah, whatever, I'm going to watch TV and do this. Like, your child can feel you don't really want to be around him, and that, or her, him, like it, and that's painful for a child. Like a 5-year-old doesn't understand, because they're going to take it internally, like mommy or daddy doesn't want to be with me, like did I do something wrong, and they're taking that internally. Whereas if you were to do the same thing and just be like, hey baby, what do you want to do for whatever, and then okay, we're gonna do this and I'll do this, or hey, I understand you're really feeling alone right now, you're really feeling like I'm not paying attention to you, I just really want to do this, or I really want to do this, like how can we talk to the child like that? That is how you have to think of talking to your partner. Like if you don't have these things, your partner is always going to internalize it. We're always going to normally internalize what we think more than you. We might lash out on you of it, but we still, the inside, if we have a awareness and a habit of this, we take it internal, and we're taking it internal to lash out on you because it's easier than to like do the inner beating we're already doing. So
I mean, the greatest saying of all time is, Nietzsche says, not only is the child inside all of us still, the child rules our lives. I'm basically paraphrasing. I mean, he's one of the greatest minds. Carl Jung says the same thing. It's all the child. You know, when Bradshaw wrote the book Homecoming, that was paradigm shifting 31 years ago. Homecoming, John Bradshaw. Just read the first 25 pages. It will change. The whole exercise is tune into your 4th grader and 5th grader, because they know all, and all your activity, all your behavior, all your insecurity, all your reactivity started the first 10 years of your lives. But what happens is we grow up, become adults, our rational brain's really working well, like we're really getting shit done in the material world. And you were like, but why am I happy? Why in a relationship? Oh, because it all started when we were 12 years old. And now that we're in our 30s, we're like, well, I don't want to go back there because there's some uncomfortable memories. I'm like, yeah, that's the bridge. That's the fire. Stand in the fire and you're going to get to the good stuff. But that's what meditation is when you get to the cushion. Nowadays, I know, oh, shit's coming up. I know I start vacuuming, I start cleaning because I know the shit's going to be coming up. Sorry.
No,
hopefully I'm not scaring people from meditation. It's the only way home. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know everyone here people that are on this, they've wanted to start it. They just don't know how. And I think one thing you said that I like, and I talked about this in my 3rd book when I was overcoming a narcissistic codependent relationship. And just for everyone listening, I hate that people say like narcissism is this horrible thing. Like codependency is narcissism. Narcissism is codependency. It literally the same way of pulling energy. It's the same thread. One is just unfortunately manipulation. One is to get for your own energy because you don't know how to refill it sustainably. It's the same thing. So I feel like people get really misunderstood about it, or like one's so great and one's not, like they're the same. So I just wanted to put that. But one thing that I had a mentor when I was really healing from this codependency, and one thing she said, which was beautiful, she's like, if it means that I have to sit here in the fire of hell and let these toxic and addictive behaviors burn from within me so I can rise like the motherfucking phoenix, that is what I'll sit here and do. And I was like, yes, that is what the fuck I will do. And I was like, that is what I, and so it was like, just this beautiful thing. So I just think like, just know that it's always within. It's always within. It's always this journey, and you're not alone. Like there's always things like this to tune in to receive a frequency. There's always conversations, whether it's the person at the coffee store. Like I was at a garage sale the other day, and whenever I see garage sales, I love them. So whenever I see them, I always stop and I go to the books, because I'm like, whatever books are there, you can never get those books like in a library or whatever. Like they're usually like these crazy books. So anyway, I'm like getting these books and I'm looking through them, and then there's like chalkboard plates that I end up getting, and then like these I have rose quartz crystal line, and they have like a big rose quartz light thing. I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting that. So I like got these things. It was like $12, and then I end up talking to the guy, and the guy breaks me open about the psychologist that's basically talking about all these different things that we are talking about. And I'm like, how is the guy at the garage sale that I literally just get, it's like we end up doing this, but that's like how it is. So it's like the more you can just get in the practice of literally talking about what's going on inside of you, the better it's going to be for you. So
can I give you a quick example?
Yeah, go ahead.
Last example. Sorry.
No.
So a friend of mine who knows I'm crazy. He's a stock trader, does some private equity, does some consulting. Super nice guy. He's like, Bill, I've got this 32-year-old business partner we're working on, who I think you should talk to. I'm like, oh, great, whatever. And so I speak to this young boy, about 3 or 4 weeks. I say young boy, I'm 56. Anybody other than younger than 50, I call him a kid nowadays. Don't ask me why. So anyway, incredible kid, is from a super successful family, like Fortune 500 successful CEO, dad, all that kind of stuff. Great kid. And when he's talking, he's like, Bill, I've been reading. He's like, I just don't feel whole in my life. I just don't feel, I'm like, oh, I'm like, you ever tried meditating? He's like, yeah, I meditate all the time. I'm like, oh, really? Awesome. 15. He's like, yeah, I do about 15 minutes. I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. Have you shed a tear? Have you cried? He's like, no. I'm like, really? Like, really? So I said, here's what I'm going to tell you. Do not, and you can call me anytime, but do not call me again until you have sat for an hour. Sit for an hour, right? I got an email from him 7 days later. So this was, spoke to him 5 weeks ago. He sent me the email 6 days later. He's like, oh my gosh, I sat for an hour and 15 and wept like a baby. This is amazing. My point is, and again, I'm not trying to scare people off. On the contrary, I'm trying to bring him in. Come on in. The water's fine. The water it's a little bit warmer. It's a little bit cold when those emotions first come up. But here's what I'll say. You will never experience true joy, and you will not finish your life the way you want to finish it until you know the deepest parts of self, which is the deepest sadness and the deepest longing. The greatest joy comes from knowing your deepest sadness and longing. I could never have found the joy that I found in my life, Colleen, if I hadn't gone in. And I could just weep right now, just the thought of the hours in the stuff of self. But the joy is like, are you fucking kidding me? This is unbelievable. So anyway.
No, I'm so grateful you shared it. And I'm so grateful you shared that story and all of it. I mean, there's so many nuggets here, and we're so lucky to have you. So for you guys listening, like, make sure to take notes, re-listen to this one. It's an incredible, incredible one. You dropped so many nuggets. So with that, how can people reach out to you? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah. And anything that people can be involved in your world. Let them know.
So wholecounseling.com is my website. Whole as in like Whole Foods, but Whole Counseling. That was some thought while meditating one day. I'm like, Whole Foods, Whole Counseling. And then the book came out last October. It's called Waking Up Marriage, Finding Truth in Your Partnership. It's not about marriage. I just use marriage as the arena, but it can be waking up self is what it should be called. Waking up self through the friction of relationships. And again, I want to quote the Harvard study. So the Harvard Grant study started in 1942. It's the longest longitudinal study in the history of economics and sociology research. It's still going on. So they're interviewing the grandkids. They took the classes of the freshman and sophomore classes of Harvard in 41. The Grant study. They came out with the results in 2016. Guess what the results were? The most important thing in people's lives is relationships. Period. Okay, so this is Harvard. So they study everything. They realize your relationships dictate how you feel, your health, your economics, everything. And so where do we start with relationships? Self. So in summary, if Harvard's saying relationships are the most important, and we know the ancients have been saying it, and all religions are all about finding oneself, then we know where to start. There's no more questions. We know where to start. It's whether we're going to start or not. So anyway, I'll shut up now.
No, you never. I always keep talking. Always, you're like a fountain of wisdom, like me. So I love it. It's like there's always new things that are coming out. So
it's our Scorpio nature. Once we get going, we don't want to stop pedaling.
Exactly. And so I'll make sure that I leave that in the show notes, guys, if you can't see it. And then if you're seeing it on social media, you'll be able to see it there as well. We'll definitely have to have you back whenever something new comes out, whenever you want. I feel like we'll do like once a year or twice a year, because I feel like there'll always be so much you and I have to share about. But we're so grateful. And if you guys like it, make sure to leave a review, share it, and know that when you tune in to receive the frequency, you're allowing yourself to be inputted with a greater range of information. So new formations to come inside of you, for you to expand, for you to radiate. And we just love you so much. And we're so grateful, Bill. So thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. That was awesome.